Okay, so we're going to begin our unit on color today. So up till this point, we've really been focusing on learning how to use black and white paint and focusing on how to see and define values, create a sense of light. And so now we're ready to move on to the next step, which is going to be, of course, much more complicated. So you are, hopefully by this point, you have watched a series of videos that talk a little bit about color, okay? So we talked a little bit about the color wheel itself. I've introduced some vocabulary words to you. If you look on this side over here, we'll talk about the 3 properties of color that you need to be aware of. And once you can master, or at least even develop just a basic understanding of how to manipulate these 3 properties of color, you can mix any shade of color that you want. Okay. We're also going to get into these different types of color schemes here as well. So we'll talk more about those when we actually work on the assignment. So for this first video, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about why we're learning how to mix colors and how to get set up with your color palette. And then the next video I'm going to show you is going to walk you through that first color assignment there. So we're not going to take the time to do a color wheel. It's something you do in elementary school and is always fun to do. But we are much more advanced than that. So we're just going to jump right into learning how to use color. Okay? So again, as a quick review, 3 primary colors, red, yellow, and blue, and you use those to make your secondary colors. So you mix your blue and your red together, you get a purple, which on the screen looks black, but it is a purple. And if you mix the blue and yellow together, you're going to get the green, and of course if you mix the red and yellow together, you'll get the orange. Okay, so these 3 are now called our secondary colors. They're made with 2 primary colors. To go on further than that, if you mix this yellow and this green together, you'll get a yellow-green, which is called a tertiary color. Okay, so all of which you need to be aware of. So why do we need to learn the color wheel, and why do we arrange it in the color, or in a wheel? Okay, why not just a row? Why not the color line or the color row? Okay, the wheel is important because it's in a circular arrangement. It helps us artists, because we are very much visual people, to see not only how they're all related, but how to mix colors specifically. Okay, so for example, if you're going to mix a specific color, let's say this color right here. You're painting a picture that has this color right here in it. Okay, first of all, you have to identify the hue. And the hue is a little tricky on this one because it's definitely on the green side. The little tile here says mosaic green. Okay, so the hue is identified as a green. Okay, so then you have to think about the other 2 properties of color. What is its intensity? This is a very low intense green. Okay, intensity just refers to the brightness or how vivid it is. This is not a very vivid green. And then you have to think about its value, okay? How light or dark of a shade of color this is, and this is definitely on the darker side of greens, okay? So if we take our green, and obviously this isn't going to work. This is not going to be a good match for those 2 colors there. So we need to, first of all, change its hue a little bit. It's still a little bit too of a normal green, so we need to make it a little bit perhaps more of a tertiary blue-green color. So I'm going to add a little bit more blue to it. Okay, and hopefully that will knock the color down just a little bit. I'm also going to add a little bit of extra water to it to lighten it up, because right now the color is really, really dark. So the value is too dark for this specific shade of green. So I'm going to add some water, which is going to lighten it up, and I may even need to, because I'm using food coloring, divvy this out a little bit. Okay, now I definitely lightened it up, but it still needs to be a little bit more on the blue-green side. Okay, so now we've got a slightly better match, a slightly better value match. Let me move these here to the side. Okay, it's closer in value to the green we had before, but it's still too intense. Okay, so that's where the color wheel comes in, because if you look at how colors are arranged, colors side by side are called analogous, and they're all related to each other. So these two colors make this one. This color is related to these two colors. But you notice green and red have nothing to do with each other. They are complements. They're considered complementary colors. Even the orange has a little bit of yellow in it, which is related to green, but green has nothing to do with the red. It's on the opposite side of the table. So what's going to happen if you take your red and mix it to the green, being complements, they are going to cancel each other out. So anytime that we mix two complements together, they're going to work against each other, or basically cancel each other out, or reduce the intensity of a color. Okay? So the minute I start to add little bits of this red in here, you can see I'm going to immediately take away the saturation of that color. Okay, and I'm going to have to lighten it up a little bit, because also when you add complements together, you also darken up the color. Okay, so it helps to reduce the intensity, but it also takes away, well, let's put some of that back there. Took it too much. It also darkens the value of that color too. So that's kind of two ways to darken a color. You can add a darker version of that color, or add the complement will always darken up that color. So as I start to add this red, you can see that I'm starting to take away that brightness of the green. Okay, if I keep adding a little bit more blue, I need to go with more blue to it. Okay, and let's see. Let me keep it on the lighter side so you can see what it is. So now there you go. Now you can see the color there is a much closer color to this color that we've got. It's still a little bit too intense, so I need to add just a tiny bit of some more red to it to take some of that intensity down, perhaps a little bit more blue. But you can see I've got a pretty good match now to this color here. Okay, it's a little bit harder with food color, but you kind of get the point of what to do. It's probably just a little too dark still. Let's line it up a little bit. But you can see I got almost a perfect match to that color there. Okay, so when you understand the color wheel and how colors are placed, especially by using complements, you can mix just about any color that you want. Okay, so that's what we're going to be doing for this first assignment, is we're going to do a lot of playing. Okay, I want you to play with these colors. See what kind of colors you get. See what happens when you mix two colors together. Now, you guys are all fortunate enough. I've given you a huge array of colors. Okay? You should have all these colors here, and I put them in the little cups. Boom, 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 boom. Okay? So you have all these different colors here. And if you look on this notes sheet that I gave you, it's got the colors all listed. You don't have all of these, but you have most of these colors here. Okay, so you can get an idea, because the other thing I want you to be aware of what the names are called. Now, oftentimes students are, they'll ask me, why can't it just be called red instead of alizarin crimson? Okay, and that's a way that artists over the years have developed these names as a way to make sure that they're standard colors, because most of the colors are named from the minerals that make up the pigment, and we'll talk about what makes up paint a little bit later. But for example, the umbers are made with umber. Cadmium is a mineral that helps to make the red and even make some yellows. Okay, so that's typically why they're called the way, or they're strange names. Now, when you go to the swatch counter at Home Depot or Lowe's, you'll notice that they have all kinds of super fun little names. This is called Sage Bud. I always wanted that job, to be able to come up with names to name these cool colors. So when I arrange my palettes, you can leave them in the little cups if you want to, or you can spread them out onto the palette tray like this. So now when I paint, I like to get all of my colors out, so I don't have to spend any time like stopping mid-painting process to think about, oh, I wish I had that color. It's there immediately for me, and so the easier I make it for me to paint, the more successful I'm going to be. So I like to lay them all out like this. Okay, I've got them laid out in kind of an order here, and I like to keep them close to the side over here, and leave the center open for all my mixing of my paint. Okay, so that's basically how I like to lay them out. So once you've got this all laid out here, you are ready to start the assignment. Now with the paint in the little cups, try to keep them in the freezer, keep the lids on them, and they should last you quite a long time. Especially keep track of your white. The white tends to be the one that we go through first. I buy lots more white paint than I do any other kind of paint. So if you run out, let me know. But keep those lids on them, keep them in the freezer, and your paint should stay good for long periods of time. If you keep them on the palette like this, then seal that box lid on tight so that air doesn't circulate too much, and your paint should stay wet for for quite a while. You can keep them for about 2 weeks. Okay, so that's how I'm going to get set up. So the next video is going to be talking about how to do this next assignment.